I wrote a whole article for Ms. in the Biz called Reconstructing Your Life. And I'm like, sometimes you have to deconstruct your life to construct the life that you've always dreamed of.
You're listening to The Other 50%, a history of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. For this episode, I got to speak with Alexandra Boylan. Alexandra is an actress and a filmmaker. She writes and produces both horror and faith-based films because there is balance in the world. She tells us her story from living in her car through her distribution deal. Her credits include Catching Faith and Home Sweet Home. You can find us at theother50%.com for added features, photos, show notes, and the merchandise. And I am pretty sure you should buy travel mugs for everyone in your office this year. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbay, and now on YouTube. Please subscribe and leave a review wherever it is that you listen. And since podcasting thrives by word of mouth, please tell all your friends. And I have another podcast called The Other 50%, a history of tech. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or on the Other 50% website. That is where I talk to successful women in tech and hear their stories. Okay, here's Alexandra. Now, I know you do a million things, but what do you do?
I write, I produce, and I act.
That's all the things.
That's pretty much all the things. I pretty much take the movie from conception to completion with my partner.
So you have a production company?
I do. I have two, actually.
Oh, what are they?
I have Mirror Tree Productions, and I have a company called Mustard Seed Entertainment.
And do they do different types of media?
Yes. So Mirror Tree Productions produced my horror thriller. And then when I started doing faith-based family films, we opened up Mustard Seed Entertainment that does all of the family faith-based films to kind of separate that from horror thriller.
From the horror? Well, that makes sense. And then you also act in other people's properties.
I do.
And you're also affiliated with Ms. in the Biz.
I am.
Are you? Okay, I'm going to want to talk about all of those things. But why don't you take us back to the beginning? What did you want to do when you were a kid?
Oh, I wanted to be an actress. Well, I really wanted to be a singer, but that's going way, way back until I realized that I couldn't sing to save my life. But I loved Amy Grant, and I wanted to be a singer. But no, that
was my first concert ever was Amy Grant in
Get Out
1984.
Oh my gosh.
The Straight Ahead tour.
You went to the Straight Ahead tour? That's pretty epic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I love Amy Grant. I mean, I'm a huge fan today. Like, I'm dying to meet Amy Grant. If she's listening, I love you, Amy Grant. I tried to get her music in one of our movies, and I sent her our movies, and my sister and I grew up loving Amy Grant. We wrote her this letter being like, you are such a huge influence in our life, and now we're making faith-based family movies, and I've looked up to Amy Grant my whole life, so she's pretty epic.
I love it. Did she write back?
Well, her manager said that she was going to give her the movies, so I hope she watched them. I hope she likes them, and I hope we get to meet her someday.
All right. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so then how did you start pursuing acting?
Well, my father's a minister, so I used to do a lot of plays in the church, and then I do community theater when I was really young, and then, of course, I did every high school play that my high school put on, and I was the lead in everything, and I loved it. And my first audition in Boston when I was 14 was for a movie called Lolita that was with Jeremy Irons and Dominique Swain. I actually screen tested for that movie. And then I just did a bunch of stuff in Boston because I grew up in Massachusetts. So my parents let me, sign up for castings, and my father would drive me into Boston and I'd audition for everything. And that's how I started it. And then at night.
Now, were you in Lolita?
I did not get the part. Dominique Swain got the part. I wish I had gotten that part. My whole life would be different. But then you can't say that, right? Because then my whole life would be different.
Right. And you never know how that would have ended up.
Maybe it would have been so good. I don't know.
Okay. So then as you were growing up, you were auditioning around town. And then what happened?
Well, then my parents really wanted me to go to college, but I really wanted to move to Hollywood. So we compromised, and I did a year of college. And then I literally just packed up my bags and I moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting. And I didn't know anybody in LA. Like, I look back now and I just think, gosh, I was crazy. I was just a crazy 19-year-old kid who was fearless. And that's sometimes how you have to do things like that. So I moved to LA, and then after a year I became homeless and I lived in my car because I didn't know anybody to live with. So my parents were like, I think this is a sign that you're supposed to leave. And I was like, no, it's not. I'm going to push through. And
Wait a minute. Did you have a day job?
I did. I was waitressing at a place called Saddle Ranch on Sunset Boulevard. And I was
I'm familiar.
Yeah, I was actually making a lot of money. It was just circumstances. I was living in a guest house, and the woman I lived with was just a nasty woman. She was not very nice. And I don't even know why she had me move into her guest house, because I don't really think she wanted somebody there. It was weird. It was like she probably needed the money, but she didn't really want somebody living in her back property. And then she like made my life really bad. And then I was supposed to move in with somebody. And the day I was about to move, that person was like, oh, I can't move in anymore. And I was like, well, I can't afford the 2-bedroom by myself. And then I didn't have that place to go back to. So I literally just had nowhere to go. Like I had a job, I had money. I just didn't have a physical home to go to.
Right, so how long did that go on?
A month.
And your parents must have been thrilled.
Oh, they're thrilled. No, they were not thrilled. And my sister lived in Wisconsin, and she was like, I'll get you a U-Haul. You can come live with us. I think she was in Wisconsin or Kentucky. I can't remember. But I was like, no, I'm not giving up. It's just temporary. And I literally lived in my car for a month, showered at my friend's house. And then a month later, I ended up getting this beautiful apartment that was rent controlled, and I lived there for 10 years. So there's always like a silver lining. I was supposed to move into this other apartment.
So that worked out.
Oh, it worked out great. I lived there literally from like 2000 to 2009. So
that's great.
It was great. Mm-hmm.
And then did you start to make some traction acting?
I did. I did some asylum movies, and but I had a really hard time. Like I could not break in. Like I could not get a good agent. I could not really get in for roles that I just wasn't even really competing. Like I was going in for independent films through myself, but I could never get like an agent to get me in the door for the big stuff. And that was super frustrating. And I literally spent 10 years just kind of slamming my head against a wall of like, how do I work hard enough for someone else to pick me? And then I decided that I was going to pick myself. And I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico to take a break from 10 years in LA. And out there, I started producing and writing and working with, and I found like this incredible independent filmmaking team. And we all started making things. And then I would just put myself as the lead in it. And I was like, well, this is what I should have been doing 10 years ago.
That's one way to do it.
It's one way to do it. Make your own movie and then give yourself the lead role.
Okay, so how did you, well, first of all, what made you think of moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico?
So I had been hearing, this was around 2007, 2008, I've been hearing that the film industry was booming in Albuquerque. And my brother Andrew lived in Santa Fe, and he was constantly like, you should move out here and get an agent. You'll probably book a lot out in a smaller market, And smart. Yeah, super smart. And it took me a couple years to finally get up the nerve to move. And I had a really good job, and I had that apartment that I loved. And then in 1 month, I lost my job and I lost my apartment. And I felt like, okay, this is a sign that I'm supposed to leave.
A sign is more like a
It's
push.
more like, no, it was more like a kick in my behind to get out of Los Angeles. It was like God was like, I don't want you here anymore. You're not supposed to be here. And I don't know what to do, but land like a house on your head and be like, you're leaving.
You are done. Get out.
But it was like the best thing that ever happened in my life. Like it's funny how life works out. Like it felt devastating at the moment to lose my apartment, to lose my job, but then it ended up being the best thing that could have ever happened. It was like I wrote a whole article for Ms. in the Biz called Reconstructing Your Life. And I'm like, sometimes you have to deconstruct your life to construct the life that you've always dreamed of. And that's kind of what happened when I left LA. I just kind of gave up everything that I've been holding on to so hard. And I lost everything. But then when I went to Albuquerque, I gained a way better life. It was amazing. So
talk us through producing that first movie. How did you do it? How did you know how to do it? What did you?
Well, my first producing job, I actually produced a play called The House of Yes. And we put that up at the Artworks Theater on Santa Monica Boulevard in LA. And I got a group of friends together. And we wanted to start making our own stuff, but I didn't have the equipment. I didn't know how to make a movie. So we all said, well, why don't we do a play? So we produced the play, and I just fell in love with the process of creating something from the beginning to the end and picking out everything that goes into the creation of the project. So I did produce that play right before I moved to Albuquerque. And then I had written a short film, and I booked a part in a short film as an actor, and I met all these filmmakers in Albuquerque, and I was like, would anybody like to work with me on this short film I wrote. So Rick Galley was like, I'll direct it. So Rick Galley brought in a bunch of the locals in Albuquerque, and we all made this short film called The Box, about a mysterious box that shows up on these two roommates' doorstep, and they fight over what to do with the box. So through that, I met this incredible group of people, and I was like, hey, do you guys just want to start making stuff? Because in Albuquerque, rent is really low, and everybody's working on these like big projects like Thor and Avengers, and they have money.
Oh, so they've got union income.
They've got union income in a low-income state. So it's like the opposite of LA, where everybody's like just scrambling to pay your bills. You have no time to be creative because you're constantly just trying to keep your head above water. And so Albuquerque, everybody was like, yeah, I'm not working on a job right now. I'm on a hiatus. Let's all go make something. And that was just the most brilliant thing about Albuquerque. And same for me. I was doing stand-in work. And in the process, we were all making these short films. I had a group of us who made a 12-episode web series called Flock. And then finally, we just decided that John Katie Graham, who's my partner, we had been making all these shorts, and we had we're like, why don't we just make a feature? Let's just do it. Like, what do we have to lose? And isn't it just a bunch of shorts put together, and we're spending all this time and resources and money and energy on short films? We should just make a feature so we can prove to people. We really did it to prove to people that we could make a feature. Yeah. So that they would give us funding. So we got I flew out a couple of actresses from Los Angeles, a couple of my girlfriends. I said, you're coming out to New Mexico. We got this location on 18 acres of land in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and it was for free. And we actually wrote the entire script around the location that we knew we could shoot for free. John's parents have a house in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico. We went out there and took photos of the house and everything, and we sent it to my brother, Andrew Boylan, who wrote the script. And we were like, these are all the set pieces you have. And here are the actors you have. Write a script.
So smart.
So smart. Yeah, it had a door that they never built a patio deck, so the door goes down and falls to the ground. So we're like, we have to use that. They have a trap door that leads to another walk-in area, and we'll have to use that. So it was really smart that we had all these really great set pieces. And the house literally is in the middle of nowhere, Alamogordo. And then John was like, I want to direct it. And then Richard Galley was like, I'll be the DP. He had a camera. Our really good friend Andrew Marirano came out there to do sound. And then our friend C. McClellan was did all the lighting. And we all still work together to this day on our bigger projects. So it's we started as this little group of people with nothing. We had a camera and a boom. That was it. We didn't even have light.
Let's put on a show.
And actually, what's kind of cool about Home Sweet Home, so we made Home Sweet Home, which was our first feature film. It was a thriller horror about a girl returns to her childhood abandoned home, and there's squatters living in it, and they don't want to leave. And the villain's a girl. So it's really fun because it's this little hot blonde girl is actually the villain up against a girl. So it's kind of we took the genre and flipped it on its head. And the whole movie pretty much takes place in the daytime. And that's just because we didn't have any lights. But it actually worked for the movie because a lot of people said they watched the movie and they were like, this is so scary because you think in the daytime you're safe. And you guys are saying that we're not even safe in the daytime.
Right. Horrifying.
So and the distribution company and our sales rep loved the film and thought, you guys are such geniuses to make this movie in the daytime. We're thinking we just did that because we didn't have the resources to shoot it at night.
Yeah. So back up just a second. Did you raise some money to shoot this?
Oh, yeah.
Or did you really just do it on a shoot?
So this was back when Kickstarter had just become something. We heard about Kickstarter. Literally nobody was doing Kickstarter projects at this time. It was back in 2010. So we were like, oh, let's try to raise money on this thing called Kickstarter. So we put up a whole thing about the film. Of course, send it to your friends and family because that's all you can do. And we ended up raising $2,400, and we were so excited. We were like, $2,400, that's a lot of money. We can buy plane tickets because we had to fly in 2 actors, and we can buy food. And everybody knew that they were working for free. There was no payment. But we all really wanted to be able to create something in positions that we wouldn't be able to get in a studio. Rick Galley wouldn't have been a DP of a big studio film, and John wouldn't have directed it. So we were all happy to get to, and I was the lead. And so we raised $2,500 on Kickstarter. And we took that to pay for food and props, and literally everyone just came out. We slept in sleeping bags in the house, rolled them up, and then was shooting in the house. Like, it was true guerrilla style. And John and I ended up paying for the rest of it. Like, what we ended up moving back to Los Angeles after we wrapped the movie, because I had been in a movie called Bellflower that had done really good at Sundance, and I had done this other thing, and I was like, I've been in New Mexico for 3 years, and I was pretty homesick, and I was like, John, I want to move back to LA. So we moved to Los Angeles, and John pretty much like literally did the entire post-production by himself, which is unbelievable. He did sound design, color correction. He just figured out how to do it.
And just all in his computer.
All in his computer. We always laugh, like Home Sweet Home was like stitched together with Scotch tape and pixie sticks, because like he was like, if you pull one
like
thread,
a stitch pillow.
Yeah, if you pull one thread from that edit, the whole movie falls apart, because we didn't have a very good program to do it on, and really we were like, we're slaving away in post production on a movie that we didn't even know what would happen with it. We just really did it to prove we did it, and then we submitted Home Sweet Home. So we paid for it out of pocket. John and I paid for the whole thing out of our own pocket. I think by the end of the day, it cost about $10,000 to make Home Sweet Home, which is incredible. Wow. Incredible. Yeah. And that's including the poster design and the film festivals. So we submitted to like 15 film festivals. We didn't get into anything. No, we were rejected. And then I didn't really know what to do after a film festival. I had no idea. Like, what do you do if every film festival says no? And I ended up meeting Dog and Pony Creative, Bridget Juergens, at a Women in Film event. And she said, send me your movie. You should get a professional poster made. So I sent her the film. I hired her to make my poster. And she was like, this is a genre film. You shouldn't even go to film festivals. You need a sales rep. And I was like, oh, how do I get a sales rep? Like, how does that work? So she helped me get my sales rep. And that's Ryan Keller from Instrom International watched the movie. He had just started his company. He watched the film. He was like, I see total potential in this movie. And he took it to American Film Market. And that year we sold to Image Entertainment for $20,000 at American Film Market. After we had been, I know, it was like amazing. And a lot of it was based off the poster. Like when sales reps go to American Film Market or Toronto or any market, they're coming with a book of posters, and they put that in front of the distribution company, and this distribution company looks through the book and chooses movies based off of the poster. Pretty much you're giving them the marketing materials, like, how can this movie make me money? So that's what they said with Home Sweet Home. The poster was incredible. It's a girl walking to a house with an axe with blood on it, and it's like a really striking poster. And they were like, oh, we can sell this.
So it pays to invest in your poster, and you got 100% ROI.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we doubled our budget. We got 100% ROI, and then it ended up going into Walmart. We sold it to six different territories. 6 different countries. And the film just now got picked up by Screambox and is on Amazon's streaming Screambox. And it's still, we just got a review 2 months ago, and the movie's been out for 4 years now or more. I can't even remember.
So it's still making money.
It's still making money for the distribution company. But the poster, I always tell everybody, like, really, it's so important to invest in your poster. People will tell me, oh, that's too much money. I don't want to spend, $2,000 to $5,000 on a poster. I'm like, well, then you should not spend $1 on your movie, because your poster is your face of your entire film. It's the only thing the audience is looking at, whether they're going to decide to choose you. It's the only thing the distribution company really looks at. It makes so much sense when you think about it. You're scrolling through Netflix. If you don't know who's in that movie, you're just looking based off a concept and a picture. Ooh, do I want to watch that? So I try to explain that to people a lot, because I feel like people don't see the value in posters, and it really is probably the most important part of your film.
That's incredible advice. And you're the first person who has said it on this show.
Good. I'm so glad that I could give you guys that insight, because it does seem like it's such a no-brainer. But when I tell people, they're like, no, I didn't think about that. And I didn't know that until Bridget Juergens taught me that, being like, you need a really killer poster. And then because we sold our movie pretty much completely off the poster, I understand it. The next movie that we ended up making was called Catching Faith. We also sold that movie off of a poster, because the distribution company is really just looking at it as a dollar sign. It's like, how do I make money off of your product? And if you can hand them the product completely wrapped up in a big, beautiful bow, they're like, great, done. I can put that on the shelves of Walmart and make blah, blah, blah amount of money. I know that that'll get on Netflix and people will click on it.
Right. And they're not going to sit down and watch 200 movies every day.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, people don't understand. Like, the distribution company will give you 10 minutes. They watch about 10 minutes of your movie. And first they'll look at your trailer. First they look at your poster. Then they'll look at your trailer. Then they'll give your movie 10 minutes. And that's even if you've gotten them to like your poster, like your trailer. And then they will even give you, we heard actually that the distribution company watches the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes. And that's it. And that's how they decide. And then somebody, of course, in the company probably watches the whole film for quality control to make sure there is a movie there.
Right.
They don't have time to sit and watch tons and tons of movies that are coming through there.
No, of course not.
They're just basing it like, can I make money off that poster? And all of our posters that we make, because we hire Dog and Pony Creative, we've never had our title changed or our poster changed, which is unbelievable. Because usually when you sell it, that's the first thing they're going to do is create a poster and they can change your title. But we haven't because we've done such a good job of our poster company does such a good job of like creating a title, the title and the poster going together. So it pays to hire a professional poster company. People are always like, oh, my friend can do Photoshop. I'm like, no. Your friend cannot do your poster. You can tell when people are Photoshopping it. Plus a professional poster company like Dog and Pony Creative, they're going to market. They're constantly working in the business. They know what distribution companies are buying. They know what Walmart wants. And I heard a story that an independent filmmaker got a private deal with Walmart, but ended up spending like $10,000 or $15,000 trying to get the poster right for Walmart because Walmart's very kind of strict on what they want. But we've never had that problem because our company knows exactly what Walmart wants. So they're already making it knowing this will get accepted by Walmart.
Super smart.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happened? Then you guys started producing more films?
Yeah, so we made Home Sweet Home, and we had a really, really awesome relationship with our sales rep. I always like to tell people, like, this is a small town. Always be kind. We worked really well with our sales agent. I love Ryan Keller so much. We would take them out to dinner all the time to thank them for everything they did for Home Sweet Home. And, you know, I said, I heard horror stories of sales reps, and I'd be like, Ryan, thank you so much. And he was like, no, thank you guys. You don't understand how many producers are so difficult to work with. So we ended up striking up a good relationship. And we were talking about making another movie called The Night Shift about a girl who works overnight shifts in a haunted nursing home, which I really want to make that movie. But he said, you know, horror is getting really saturated in the market right now. And if we make another horror movie and we go to market next year, it's going to be really hard to sell it. He goes, but you know where there's a huge need in the marketplace right now is faith-based family films. And I was like, well, and my dad is a minister and I am a believer. And I was like, wow, I'd never thought that I would make faith-based family films ever in my life. But I said, he was like, if you could do the quality of Home Sweet Home in the faith-based family arena, you would knock the competition out of the water, and we could probably sell it for a really high ROI. And he goes, so we were like, let's do it. So he goes, all you need to do is make sure football is in there. And I was like, okay, but I want to, you know, my passion is to make female-driven films. So I was like, okay, it's going to be about a woman, but I'll get your football in there. And funny. So we made a female-driven, faith-based football movie, and he got us. Ryan's like, I'll get the funding if you guys make the movie, which is like the dream of an independent filmmaker to find somebody who will invest in
so
it.
He was able to do pre-sales.
We were able to. No, we didn't have pre-sales on it. He was able to get the funding like from private investors, and so he got $75,000. That's all we had to make Catching Faith. And we ended up coming to a town called Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin to write the script where my sister lives. And the town found out about us making this movie. And they were like, what do you need to make this film? And we were like, well, the biggest thing we need is football stadiums. And they were like, you can have our football stadiums and you can have we'll help you. So it was incredible. The whole town came out and helped us. And we were able to make that movie for $75,000. Because, and that was only, and what's so funny is that was all we had for production. We thought we would raise money on Kickstarter for post-production, and we never did. So actually everybody in post ended up working for free or very little money.
Wow, so it really pays to get out of town.
Oh yes, I would say that too. Same with yeah, so we did Catching Faith. We shot in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, and the whole town came out to help. Like we got locations for free, we got football stadiums, we had hundreds of extras showed up to be in the film.
Incredible.
And it was a really good thing I think for the community too. Like everyone really loved being a part of making the film. So it was like almost like giving back but also getting, like everybody and everybody was really proud of the kind of film we were making. We were making a good family film, good values and morals. And then when we made our Christmas movie, which is Wish for Christmas with Joey Lawrence, Lee Allen Baker, and Bill Engvall, we ended up going to my home. My sister and I grew up in Georgetown, Massachusetts, and my father's a minister, and we went home to that town, and everybody gave us free locations, and we were able to shoot on the streets for free. There was no permitting needed and like if you see Wish for Christmas, it's the most darling little town in New England. And when I went to go ask the police officer, I went to like the congressman or whatever of my town. I said, "What do I have to do to shoot a movie here?" He was like, "Nobody's ever asked me that before." He's like, "Just stay on the sidewalk and let the police know, and you're fine."
How great! I did a film once up in Maine, and it was like that. The when I would set the radio alarm clock, it would be, "Hey, the movie's shooting today at Main and Third. If you want to go down there." The small towns really just come out and love it.
Absolutely, it's wonderful.
Now it sounds like you're starting to now get name talent. How did you make that jump?
And then because obviously Catching Faith did really good, we ended up selling Catching Faith. So we made Catching Faith for $75,000. We sold it to Image Entertainment for $250,000.
Well done.
Yeah, a really good ROI. It sold to many different countries, and the film is doing really, really well. It's on Netflix, and so that helped us get a bigger budget for Wish for Christmas. And then we were able to we went out to Joey Lawrence, and we got Lee Allen Baker from Good Luck Charlie and Bill Engvall. We wrote him a part in the movie. Like we literally just sent him the script because we're friends with him now. That's a good thing about when you work with actors and you can bypass the agents. Yeah. And he was like, "Don't send it to my agents, just send it directly to me." And so because we had a little bit more money, we could make offers, and they and Lee Allen Baker really loved the script. And then we did something a little strategic that I think is extremely smart, but this is Ryan Keller. I can't take credit for Ryan Keller's. He's now our executive producer. We went after a YouTube star who's a Christian, who's 18, and she has 1.5 million followers on YouTube. And our movie is about an 18-year-old girl struggling with her family's faith and stuff. It's like a dramedy. It's fun. It's fun. It's like It's a Wonderful Life meets Mean Girls, and it's adorable.
That's
and
great.
So we casted her in a small role in the movie, and that was like the smartest thing we could have done. Because when she does post, it goes out. 30,000 hits in like a minute in an hour. And she's our demographic.
Oh, yeah.
And she speaks
the marketing.
Exactly. And she speaks to our demographic. Like our demographic is high school girls. So it was perfect. So I actually think YouTube stars and influencers are now becoming more valuable in your film than maybe even like a Joey Lawrence, because they don't have the influence of being able to tweet out something and have 100,000 people go and buy your movie immediately,
Yeah. So smart. So you're off and running.
Yes.
Okay. So next, I would love to talk about Ms. in the Biz. Can you, first of all, describe what it is and talk about your part in it?
So Ms. in the Biz was created by a woman named Helena Santos, and she is amazing. She's so inspiring to me and a very dear friend of mine. And she started it back when like people weren't as much as they are now talking about females in the film industry and how we need to break through and change it. And so she actually decided to create this sort of online magazine where women in the film industry write articles once a month, and she would put up a new article every single day of women sharing insights and sharing stories and encouraging and inspiring other women to get behind the camera and tell stories. And I had met her, and she asked me, this was right after I'd made Home Sweet Home, and we were in post-production on that movie, and she said, "Would you write for the site?" And I was like, yes. I'm like so passionate about, women, not just like working in the industry, but supporting each other in the industry, writing female-driven content, having things coming from the female gaze, finding a way that we can get an equal seat at the table with men. So I felt so honored that she asked me to write. And her and I have become really, really, really close friends. And I ended up writing for the site for the full 3 years that it was up. And I wrote one article every month for 3 years. And it's really, now I'm actually going to publish my articles into a book because it's kind of cute because it actually,
Fantastic.
yeah, and it goes through my entire career of starting with Home Sweet Home and then getting Catching Faith and then getting Wish for Christmas. And it's got a great trajectory of sort of like my journal entries of my life.
Yeah.
And then she and I were talking about making it like a book. I was like, we should have, we were just talking about like how it'd be really fun if someone could have this on their nightstand. And so we pulled out, I don't know how many articles, but we picked like our top favorites and put them together in a book. And it was kind of like our love letter to 19-year-old girls coming into Hollywood, like everything that nobody told me when I came. Now it's like, and so that book, it's called Thriving in Hollywood, Tenacious Tales and Tactics from Ms. in the Biz. And it's a collection of amazing articles from women giving you the rundown of how it works or how to do it. Or
I love it.
I'm so proud of Ms. in the Biz, and I'm proud that I got to be a part of it. And I'm a very active member of Women in Film, and I'm just a huge advocate for women, and not just, talking about it, doing it. When I crew up my movies, I make sure I have 51% women on the crew. If I get 2 resumes, a man and a woman, and the woman is, I will hire the woman over the guy, because I feel like we have to do that for each other, because men aren't necessarily thinking to hire us. So we have to be like, I'm going to hire this woman grip. And the guy will be like, why are you getting a woman grip? And I'm like, her resume is great. She was phenomenal. She was an amazing, I think it was electrician on Catching Faith. We only had the budget for one electrician, and I hired a woman. And my gaffer, who's a dear friend of mine, C. McClellan, was like, you hired me one electrician and it's a woman. I was like, her resume is awesome. And by the end of the show, he was like, she's one of the best I've ever worked for. But he probably wouldn't have thought to hire her. But I did. And now that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we have to
go
to bat for each other and be like, no, we're hiring the woman.
Yes. What do you make of the state of women in the business right now?
I'd like to say it's getting better, but I think it's still seems to still be a struggle. We don't have a lot of women directors, and I think we need more female writers, because we need women to be written from the female gaze, because I don't want to see the women being represented the way they are on screen. It's just like we still have a long way to go to break through the Hollywood of the boys club. I work as a stand-in on my side time, and I'll be standing in on a movie and it's like all men around me, and I'm the only woman because I'm standing in for the female actress, and I'm like, we need more women in this room. Like, this is crazy. And we need more women directors to get studio gigs and studios to hire women. I mean, I once read a statistic that, I don't know if this is right, but that the equal number of men and women will get into Sundance, but the studios only pull the men out to direct the movies from Sundance.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, if overall they direct 7% of studio films.
Yep. Where they're getting those guys from somewhere and they're not getting the girls from anywhere. So the thing that makes me so upset about probably any business with women and men is that, like, if the woman gets the opportunity, if she messes up, then she's just ruined it for everyone for like years. Yeah. And I hear that stories like that being told, well, this girl messed up or this girl did that. And I'm like, oh, but if a guy did that, it's not like you're not going to hire him again.
No, they think, oh, he'll get better on his next movie.
Exactly. And I attend so many women in film events, and just the unconscious bias against women is unbelievable. We even do it ourselves. Like, I hear women on panels even unconsciously doing it against ourselves, where you're like, do you hear what you're saying? I think what we really need to work on is our mentality of the unconscious bias, of stop treating women different than men. First, we have to talk differently, and then actions can be different.
And how do you think we do it?
I think we call it out every time we see it. So John and I are partners. And people talk so differently to him than me. And I'm constantly calling it out. I'm always telling him about it. I'm always telling the person. And then eventually people will be like, oh, yeah, I didn't even realize I was doing that. I'm like, right.
Yeah.
But then if you make people aware of it, then they catch themselves when they're like, wow, people will turn to John and talk to him and they won't talk to me. And I'm like, I'm John's partner. You don't have to pretend like I'm not here. I can have this conversation with you, but it's like I was once talking with a woman about investment and she said, well, I'll have this gentleman called John. And I was like, why? I'm like, first off, you and I can have this conversation. And if you want to have a man, you can have the man call me. He doesn't have to call John. Like I am 50-50 with John. So interesting. And I think it's just calling it out. Like I was in a meeting recently and I was pitching to an agent Catching Faith 2 in the storyline. And he said, well, wait, there's no football in this one. I'm like, no, it's actually more about the mother-daughter 3-generation women's story. And he was like, well, you can't do that because what guy is going to want to sit there and watch that? You have to have the football to keep me in the seats. And I was like, women have had to relate to men's stories our whole life. I'm sorry that you can't, you're telling me you cannot relate to a woman's story, then don't sit down and watch the movie with your wife. like it's just so crazy to me, that he would even say that out loud to me.
But I think it's a real thing. Women's stories are perceived to be for women and no one else should be interested. Right. It's bizarre.
It's so bizarre. I'm reading a fantastic book called You Play the Girl. And I don't have it with me and I don't have the author, but it's called You Play the Girl. And it's a bunch of essays from a woman who was a TV critic and then a movie review. And she just talks about how cinema portrays women through the past years. And it's just, the book is so well written. She articulates things that I wish I was as smart as she is because it's called You Play the Girl. It's excellent. And it's really, I want everybody to read it because it really sort of sheds a light on a problem that I don't even think people are aware of. We're not aware of it,
And what exactly is it?
What we're not aware of?
Yeah.
I think we're just not aware of exactly what you just said. It's like, why is it that the people think that women movies are only for women? Where does that come from? Where does that come from in the mindset? Who told us that? How did that start in our, clearly when we're young, we're told something and we believe it. And then we just have to find a way to create difference. So the young people today, it's kind of like Wonder Woman. I actually went to see Wonder Woman and Patty Jenkins was talking afterwards, which was such an incredible, and I sat in the front seat because I was so excited to see her talk. And somebody said to her, aren't you so excited about all these little girls who are seeing your movie and seeing that they can be a superhero? And she had just talked about when she was a little girl, she saw Superman and she walked out of the theater going, I can be Superman. I am Superman. And so that other person in the audience said that about young girls. And I said, Patty, I said, what's interesting is I went to the movie theater to see this movie and a little boy came out and he was going, I'm Wonder Woman. And I thought, not just are you changing little girls, you're changing little boys to see women as superheroes. And I get goosebumps because when we were kids, there's all, I didn't see, right? It's Superman and Spider-Man and Batman, but I didn't have and boys don't see women and I talked to young boys being like, did you see Wonder Woman? Oh, that's a girl movie. I'm like, but why do little boys think that that's not for them? We as parents, I'm not a parent, but parents need to make sure that they are bringing their little boys to Wonder Woman because
of course.
To change the mentality young.
It seems like, I think it's the systematic devaluing of anything feminine from jump.
Yep.
Yeah, we got to stop doing that.
We have to stop doing that. There's so many things. And I'm extra hyper aware of it. So people are probably annoyed in my presence because I'm so aware of it that I'm such an outspoken person that I'm like, I cannot, I'm a Libra and I'm into fairness. And I'm like, you can't talk that way or you shouldn't think that way. And I mean, I will admit that Ryan Keller, when I told him I wanted to make Catching Faith a female-driven story, he said, well, I don't think we can do that because there's no numbers in the faith-based films to back up that they make money. And I was like, you know why that is, right? Because there are no female-driven faith-based films. And faith-based films tend to speak to the men because they know that the women buy it and they want to keep the men in the seats. And I thought, that's so ridiculous. Why are we not just speaking to the person who went out and bought the movie in the first place? And we sold Wish for Chris Pureflix Entertainment, and they are the #1 Christian distribution company. And they wanted to meet us, which was really wonderful. They invited us to the office, first distribution company I've ever had a relationship with. And they were, and when I went to the meeting, it was all men. And when we went into the conference room, I went and sat at the head of the table because I knew if I didn't sit at the head of the table, I might get lost in this room full of men. And I totally did it on purpose. And I wanted to make sure that I had my seat and I could talk and wouldn't be, but it ended up really being quite an incredible experience. But I actually said to them, I said, you know, that faith-based films are all geared to men and your audience is women. It's the women who buy this for their family. And one of the men from Pureflix said, you're absolutely right. And he goes, and there's 4 white dudes who work at the company. And I respected him so much for admitting that, to saying that. But also, we were having that conversation because I brought it up and I wasn't afraid to say, listen, this isn't okay. And someone has to be the one to change it.
Yeah, I was wondering when you were saying that you call people out like in the meeting or in the moment, I'm wondering what that looks like when you do it. Because I would imagine you have to do it in such a way as to not completely alienate the person who has just said the thing. How do you approach that?
I think you're absolutely right. First off, I have a pretty bubbly personality, and I do genuinely care about people. So I think when people meet me, they're usually pretty drawn in a good way because I think I come off genuinely. So I don't think that people are off put by me. Like I don't have if I was like a stern, I mean, I've worked with women too who can be really like put up that guard of like, don't mess with me because I'm a woman, but I'm not like that. I'm pretty open. So I feel like people, when I say things, people aren't offended or upset. It's more like I've just started a conversation. Not like, I'm not calling them out to make them feel bad. I'm saying, let's start a conversation about this problem.
So it sounds like you have charm going for you.
It's a good word for it, charm. And I'm really not trying to be, in a way, I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm so disturbed myself by it. And what I don't understand is I'll go to a lot of events where women are all complaining and I'm just like, why are we sitting here complaining? Why don't we all just get together and go make a movie? And then we are changing it. They don't, you can't, I'm so against the whole just sit there and complain. I'm like, what are we doing to change it? I write female-driven films. I hire female producers. I hire female crew. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't want to talk. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And if someone says I can't do it, I'm like, no, that's a great thing about coming from the indie world where we came from nothing. So when we got to a level where we get to make decisions, we got to make the decisions because we proved that we could do it. So nobody would sort of argue us because they'd be like, well, we know you guys do a good job. So yeah, you can do that. You know what I mean? Like be so good, they can't say no to you.
Exactly.
But it is very difficult. It's very difficult. And I've been in meetings where I haven't said anything and then I regret it. So I'd rather say it than later be like, I wish I had stood up for myself, or I wish I had stood up for all women in that scenario. So
for sure.
I'd rather be bummed I did it than regret I didn't do it.
Are you a success?
Am I a success?
Mm-hmm.
Well, success is such a tricky word because I don't know what the definition is, but I feel successful because my films are going out I've been invited to Cuba next month to go on a movie tour for Catching Faith. And I had a woman from a village in South Africa email us after seeing Catching Faith on TV and said it changed her life. And that to me is to have a woman in a village in South Africa tell us that our film changed her life and she saw herself portrayed in a film. I was like, my job's done.
That's pretty good.
I mean, I cried the entire day because I thought if we made that movie for that one woman, then that was all it was for. It was for her. And just to have people, especially Catching Faith, it really resonates with people. And to have the messages that we get that people say, I sat down and had a conversation with my child that we've never had before, but because of your movie, it started a conversation. There's just no better feeling in the world than, and going to Cuba and having all these women. My sister wrote the Elijah Project, and it's the workbook that you do with, after you watch the movie, you can do the workbook like churches do workbooks and stuff that go along with the film. Mm-hmm. she went to Cuba in March, and she said that over 300 women showed up every time she came to speak somewhere, and they were hanging out of windows. And I also think it's just like shows the need to create content and things that women can feel valued in. So I feel like I'm a success because I'm trying to do that.
Yes. Are you a badass?
Yes, I'm such a badass. Well, I moved to LA when I was 19. I didn't know anyone. I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico when I was 29. I didn't know anybody. I am always ready to do something. I have no idea what I'm doing. And we made a live action choose your own adventure app game. We've made movies. I'm always the first to say, let's just do it. Let's try. If we fail, who cares? There is no such thing as failure. You get back up and you try it again, you know?
Great. What advice do you have for young women just starting out?
Make your own content. Get involved. Use all your creative talents. When I moved to LA to be an actor, I became tunnel vision, and all I was doing was being an actor. And I really let go of all my other talents. And I wish I had been writing, and I wish I had gotten on set as a PA, electrician, any way you can get on a movie set and be involved and learn. And don't just wait tables and wait for people to call you for an audition. Like I say, that's what I did. I was a waitress waiting. And if I hadn't left to go to New Mexico, I'd still be a waitress waiting. I say, create your own content, find a tribe of people, work with people who are smarter than you. I love to surround myself with people who are way smarter than me. And don't be intimidated by successful people, because success rises in groups. So you want to be around people who are succeeding. That's who you want to be around. You don't be jealous of people. Join them and go to the top with them.
Yeah, super smart advice. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to say?
You know, I did make a live action choose your own app game that took us 2 years to make it. We got it onto the Apple Store and nobody bought it. And we just recently had to pull it. And that's sort of like one of the things in my life that was like a disappointment, because it's sort of like that failed. But then I think it's really important to always, but I was like, no, we didn't fail. We learned by doing it. We had a blast when we made it. And so I feel like, and we made that when people were like, that's impossible. That's going to crash the phones. That no one's ever made a live action choose your own adventure app game before. And I was like, just because no one has done it doesn't mean that we can't be the first to do it. So I love that mentality of don't let anyone tell you it can't be done. You know, Steve Jobs fired people if he said, I want this done. And they'd be like, that's impossible. He'd fire someone and then get somebody who would be like, I can do that. Because first we just have to imagine that it can happen, and then we can create it anyway.
Yeah.
So I love talking about women in the industry. So thank you for bringing it up. And I know this is all the other 50%. So I'm so glad we're talking about it. I think just even you having me on and you and I having this conversation about it is one way we're going to change it.
Oh, for sure. I believe that.
And we really do need men to champion women. Men out there need to champion women and I work with incredible men. My partner is a man, and he is 100% behind female-driven films. You know, my friend Helena Santos, who created Ms. in the Biz, we decided to go after Wish for Christmas. We had like a $400,000 budget and had huge star names. After we made that movie, we decided to go back to our roots and go make like a no budget for fun movie. So Helena, myself, John Graham, and Rick Galley all went out to the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, and we shot a feature film with $800. That's all we had. Yeah. What? Oh, yeah. It was $800 for the budget. Of course, nobody got paid. But and then my brother Andrew wrote the script, and it's called At Your Own Risk. And it's about two girls who go on a geocaching adventure, and things go a little crazy. And I'm really excited for the film because it totally hits all the Bechtel, the Bechtel test, you know. My brother Andrew wrote it, and he's such an awesome, he is a great writer who writes for women very well. He wrote Home Sweet Home, because the girls go on this adventure. They never once talk about a guy. They don't talk about boyfriends. The whole time they're talking about the adventure, their career, their relationship. And it's like when our editor was a woman and she came on to edit the film, she's like, this is the first movie I've seen that I've worked on like this, where the girls are they're really what normally guys would play in a movie. They're just people. Yeah, they're just people. So I'm really excited about At Your Own Risk. And if people want to sign up, we're going to self-distribute that because we've had a lot of wonderful success with distribution companies selling. But we want to start testing the self-distribution market because you can put your movies on Amazon and iTunes yourself now. And that's going to totally change the game. And we'd like to keep all of the money. So we made At Your Own Risk kind of to test that out, but also to go back to our roots of just making stuff for fun. Because there's a lot of pressure when you get higher budgets and big star names. People are always telling me, oh, if I could just get the money, I'll make a movie. I'm like, you don't know that. You have to first make the movie because you don't know. You could get the money and then it would fall apart halfway through and then you have a big responsibility. I'm glad on Home Sweet Home. I just kept thinking, if we fail, we're failing on our own dime. We don't have anybody to answer to. So I recommend to learn before you get all the big investment and all the stress and the pressure of star names and lots of money and lots at stake, So
yes. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun. I loved this conversation.
Me too. You've been listening to The Other 50%, A History of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Alexandra Boylan for sharing her story. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Podbay, and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out in letters, for added features, bios of our guests, and the coffee cups. And now on YouTube, where you will start to see some of these interviews on video. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Other50%, and Instagram at Other50% Podcast. And don't forget to check out The Other 50%, A History of Tech. Thanks for listening. See you next time.